Hello and welcome to this conversation. My name is Karina Ladet. I'm an intuitive channel, a healer, and a mentor. And I am so happy to introduce my dear friend, Amy Taylor-Kabbaz, who is the creator of Happy Mama with Amy. And she's a very successful best-selling author, and she's an internationally awarded life coach. And she lives in Australia with her 3 children and husband. And I'm so happy you're here today, Amy. Welcome.
It's so lovely to speak to you again. Always love connecting with you.
Oh, thank you. And so Amy and I have actually been friends online for quite a few years now, and we met finally in real life 6 months ago when I was in Australia. So it's always so happy to see someone who is the way she is online, offline, even at home with all the children and all the stuff to juggle, right? Because that's,
you know,
I saw it all.
You slept in my little boy's bedroom.
Yeah, I did. So lovely.
So yeah, you know that I'm the real deal now.
I know you're the real deal. So it's always really nice because, well, you know this as well. When we meet people, sometimes we've met online. It's not always the same. For real, right? So I'm always very happy when the person who is sharing authentic stories and really showing who she is that way in real life, without aiming for perfection, of course.
That's right. That's our goal.
It is. So Amy, I would love for you to share a bit about the work that you do and who you are.
Okay. Well, the work that I do is I work with mamas around mindfulness, meditation, and I've really been thinking about this lately, and I think the best way to describe it is self-inquiry, because I think what I'm really passionate about is that so often when we become mamas, we get completely wrapped up in the lives of these beautiful little creatures, and we can very easily lose ourselves in the caring for them. And then as they start growing and we have to go back to work and all of these other elements of our life come in, we just completely lose ourselves in the process of trying to be a modern woman, a business owner, a partner, a mother, whatever it is that you're trying to juggle. And I'm really, really passionate about making self-inquiry and meditation and mindfulness practices practical for women. I think we think it's very much an hour on a yoga mat or something you do at a retreat, and so many people don't give it a try or just don't even think it's for them, and actually it's the key to being a happy mama. So I guess my story about why I talk about this is that I was pretty much that person I just described. I have always been extremely ambitious and a very hard worker, and was a really successful journalist for the ABC here in Australia until along came the babies and my world was turned upside down. But at first, I just had this belief that I could do both, that I could still be this very driven, masculine energy, really, career woman, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect everything. My ego loved it when people would say to me, I don't know how you do it all, Amy, because that was what that old me thrived on, was this appearance of being superwoman, I like to call it, until it all came crashing down. And I ended up in hospital in early labour with my 3rd baby. And it was in that moment that I really had to sit there and ask myself, what am I doing? And is this really working? And am I really happy? And how do I want to live my life? So that was 4 years ago. And that's where this has all come from.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. And I love how you share your stories with your audience, and you have such a genuine and heartfelt and vulnerable, but in a good way. You know what I mean? That balance between how you share without it being too much, but not just as a strategy to share stories as well, and how your business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's I think it's it's a delicate balance to find as well. And it's interesting that your work comes from that as well, because sometimes that's how our passion for our work actually comes from something we've struggled with, and we create what we would have loved maybe at that time.
My work is my therapy. My writing is my self-coaching, where it has pulled me out of so many dark places and has kept me inspired in so many ways. There are so many times, and the women that are watching this call who are coaches and healers as well will know this, but there are so many times where I am not in a good headspace at all, or things don't feel like they're going right, but I've got a coaching client or a live call for a group call that I have to run, and I'll get on and I will be saying to the women exactly what I needed to hear too. And it is this process of working through exactly what I needed. And by the end of it, I feel completely different because I have reminded myself of what I needed. And we literally are all going through the same things at the same time. Whenever I question if I should share something or talk about a struggle I've had, I remember that every time I write something, there is always women who say to me, it feels like you wrote that for me today. I can't believe it, because we are all struggling with the same things. So it is my greatest therapy is this work.
That's great. Yeah. And it's so interesting how we get to work through these things, and how amazing it is when someone says what we feel too, because somehow, even if we know it's not true, it's like we secretly think that someone must have it all together, but that someone doesn't exist, right? Because every time we meet someone we think has it together, well, they don't either. So
can I just share something on that? Actually, in my work as a journalist, I've interviewed and I've both interviewed and worked for some very high profile people, and had insights into their world that, you know, you don't get in their books or on their Instagram feed. And I can tell you that even the most profound spiritual teachers worry that they said the wrong thing, worry if they came across the wrong way. Even the biggest media personalities that I've produced have deep self-doubt. And that has been a great lesson for me to realize over the years, is that there is no one on that pedestal. Everyone has their moments of questioning and really having to back themselves and believe in themselves. So that's been a really good lesson that I've had to learn.
Oh, that's great. It's so good to know, isn't it? Because then we're like, oh, well, I'm normal then. I can keep going.
Totally.
Right.
We are normal.
We are. Well, normal, right? So I would love to know a bit more about, because you have a successful business, and I feel that you run it in a sustainable way, right? You have, you do other things. You're not just working constantly. And I know you have a family and you do the other things as well. And I would love to know if there are any really important pillars for you as you created your business, or now as you're growing your business, any like non-negotiables, really important points for the foundation of your business.
Yes, the very first thing that comes to mind is that I realised last year when I stepped into my business full time that I absolutely could not stay up late all night working. And I had this real turning point in my business where I realised that I would probably get there faster to the point of success if I did push myself and stayed awake until midnight. Once again, talking about other people's business and having that real worry about whether you're doing enough. I would get emails from business colleagues that I really respect and admire and who are very successful at 1 o'clock in the morning. These emails would come through. And there was a real point in growing my business where I had to sit down and ask myself, am I going to do that? Because if I did, I'm sure I'd probably be a lot richer by now. But is that the life I want to have? And thankfully, in a way, I have a body that doesn't allow me to push myself. I have a thyroid disease that is very volatile. It will let me know very quickly when I've pushed myself too far. So my absolute non-negotiable with my business is my sleep,
Yeah.
It really is. It's absolutely at the core. I cannot create, write, be there for anybody in my business when I haven't had any sleep. And also I have 3 kids that aren't great sleepers. So I go to bed most nights not knowing if I'm going to have a full night's sleep. So I know that sounds really practical, but as we build businesses, it is so easy to put our health and our own well-being at the very bottom. Just thinking, of course there are moments where I do stay up a bit late, like the night before a deadline or a launch or whatever, but generally I don't. If anything, I will go to bed at the same time as the kids, and I'll get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I just am so much more creative in that time, and that hour before everyone wakes up is my favorite time of the day. So my other pillar is that morning practice. So my alarm goes off at 5 every morning, and I get up. And I have to say, if anyone's watching this and thinks, oh my God, I can't do this, I'll preface this by saying that I was in breakfast radio for 15 years at the ABC. So my alarm went off at 3:30 in the morning for work for years and years and years. So my body clock is programmed for this. Even on the weekend, I'm usually awake by 5:30. I just can't sleep in. So please don't think I'm some kind of super disciplined person. It's just years of training where I don't have a choice. But now I do get up at 5 because I love it. And I have my morning trilogy, I call it. I've actually got it blocked out in my calendar. And my morning trilogy is 10 minutes of yoga, 10 minutes of meditation or prayer, and 10 minutes of journaling. And it's just this half an hour little practice, and it's not timed to 10 minutes, but it's just this idea that I just do these 3 little chunks together. And on the days I do that, everything flows better, of course, with my family. But in terms of speaking about my business in particular, that's when I get my ideas. That's when I suddenly solve that problem. That's when I realize that the person I was worried about yesterday is not relevant to where I am right now. It's all of those bits of clarity. And then my kids wake up and the day sort of gets going. And then on the days that I do work on my own, by the time I sit back down again and open up my laptop and get ready to create, I've kind of already done all the mental prep, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if I miss that morning practice and then I just sit down at 9:30 with my laptop, they're the days that I get lost in social media. They're the days that I just fluff around in my inbox and only answer the emails that are easy. You do that?
I do that too. Fluffing around all day, and we haven't done anything really important.
And all of the hard emails that really needed to be answered, you haven't done any of those, but you've cleared those really easy ones. Yes, thank you for that. So that's sort of the bookends of my life. As I go to bed really early, so I can then get up really early in the morning. And yes, I've been really playing with this idea, Karina, lately of co-creation with my business. And I think that that's been the biggest lesson I've had to learn, that, going back to how I used to be, that really overambitious, masculine, structured approach to my career. I was in the ABC, a journalist, climbing that ladder. It was all very much having to follow the steps and plan and be in the right place at the right time and all of these things. And to switch that off and to start instead creating from a place of joy and just feeling like it will come through me if I just let it, and all of those beautiful ideas has had to be one of the hardest lessons of my life, because it will still click back in. If my program doesn't sell the way I thought it will, that old pattern will kick in. Well, okay, so out comes the spreadsheet and the markers, and right, so next month I need to do this, and and I just get into that overdrive again. And it's that real lesson of having to say, okay, there's a reason why this has happened. What's the reason? What's the lesson? What do I need to learn? How can I move through this? Totally different way of approaching things.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing this, Amy. And I think it's so important. And I think that's one of the key things about doing business in a more feminine, intuitive way, where we really honor our own needs, whether that is working late if you're like a night person, or working early if you're a morning person, having some non-negotiables. Because I don't think that we need super complex, long practices to have a good business. It's like we need to have what's right for us, and to do it regularly, right? Because half an hour is doable. I'll meditate for 2 hours every day. For most people, that's not so easy. And it's just giving ourselves that. It's like nourishing yourself every day so that you kind of build up that strength. And I love also how your business has taught you to kind of do the opposite of what you've been doing. It's been a bit the same for me. I used to be super, super driven and hard worker. And when you have lots of energy and you just keep going, it's just that at some point we can't do that, either because we don't want to, or because our bodies are telling us this isn't possible, or even just because the feeling when you've pushed yourself really hard, even when you do get to that goal. I remember doing that in my old job when I was working in communications and marketing, and we'd have like a huge goal, and I would work really hard, and I would finally get to that point, and everyone's super happy, and you're kind of, happy for getting there. But then you get that really empty feeling of, I actually put my life on hold and my health on hold for X amount of time. And no matter how much praise I get, it's just not filling me up. And that's not what we want for our own businesses. Usually it's because we want something different. And when you get that and you feel that, it's like you can't go back. And even if we slip out of it, it's like we keep pulling ourselves back until it becomes more and more of a habit, right? But it takes commitment and a lot of faith, because most people around us do not work in this way, because that's not how our societies are created, right?
We're completely goal orientated. I think the biggest wake up call for me with this was in April last year. My first book was published. When I was 7 years old, I decided I was going to be an author, a New York Times bestselling author, and it has literally been my lifelong dream to have a book published. And it came out, and that was amazing, and I had a book launch, and it was all great, and I was stalking the bestsellers list. There's a local online bookshop here in Australia called Booktopia. It's kind of like our Amazon. It's Australian based. And so I was stalking Booktopia like a mad woman for weeks when the book first came out. I'm like, I visualized this. I have manifested it. I have put it on the dream list. It's on the vision board. This baby is going to be a bestseller. Like, I had done all the work. and then one day, as I, checked again, there it was on the bestsellers list. And I'd had that moment, and it was really like, oh my God, this is what I've been working for my whole life. And I woke up the next day, and it was the same. My life hadn't changed. My kids still drove me nuts. I still had the same fears. I still had to show up for the same challenges every day. And it was this absolute moment of realization that you cannot wait for these things to come true to be happy, because they don't actually change anything. I was the same person. It was a number on a computer, and it stayed in the bestsellers for months. But, and so, yes, I achieved my goal, but inside it didn't feel like that, because I don't know, that's not what makes us happy. I've realized what makes us happy is the connection and the creativity. The creation of something is what I love. It's that connection with women like you and the women that in my programs. It's having the freedom to go to yoga in the middle of the day because I don't feel like writing today. Like, I had to totally redefine what success was for me, because up until then, for 38 and a half years, it was have a best-selling book. And I got it, and I was like, oh, that's not what I thought it would feel like. Nothing really changed. I'm still me. So what am I going to do about that for the rest of my life? It was a really big lesson.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Amy. And isn't it always also like it's all those small moments where nothing spectacular happens, but inside something clicks into place. Like when you do your practice in the morning and you're like, wow, I love this. Or the moments of freedom, or like all those things. It's so interesting because it's like what we're longing for. It's right here. It's not somewhere far, far away. And actually knowing what it is that we want, because that's something I find as well as like an intuitive business owner as well. It's like, what is my dream really? If I peel off all the stuff that I've been taught and what other people want and all the things we believed about ourselves, and really tune into what is it that makes me feel alive and like, this is what I'm here to do. And that's usually, like you said, it's that conversation with someone, or it's the soul stuff, right? It's that deep connection and the love and all of that. And it's just, it's just interesting what we think it will be and what it isn't.
That's right. And it's a conversation we have to have with ourselves, because what I realized, and I hope this helps the women that are watching this, but what I realized was that I was chasing a goal that I'd set when I was 8 years old. And, so often we do that. We chase something because it's what we said we would do, or it's what someone said we should do, or it's what Instagram tells us we should be doing. We don't actually sit and ask ourselves. And for some of us, big success is not what we want. We just want to make our own world different, or we just want to provide for our family, or we just want to explore what yoga means to us, or, but that's a conversation we have to have with ourselves. And I think that conversation and those answers only come from having space and allowing yourself to have that space. So whether that's meditation or taking yourself to the beach regularly with a journal and sitting down and writing. I think those are the practices that allow you to finally hear the real answer, because the ego brain, that front brain, will always say to you, well, of course you want a best-selling book. That's what you've said since you were 8, so that's what you need to fight for. Whereas my heart's saying, actually, I don't really care about that stuff anymore. I just want to have freedom and abundance and write and create and connect. So, it's a totally different answer.
Yeah, and then having the courage to follow through and to stay committed to that dream. And that's why I think it's so important just to have that spiritual practice, connecting in with our bodies, because when we tune in, we know it's like having that North Star, right? You feel it and you know it and you trust it. And the more time we spend in that space, the easier it becomes to walk our own path. Because it's when we're disconnected and we're not taking the time to tune in that we start listening to everyone else, right? And then we're like, oh, maybe I should do this or that or this. And the thing is, there are a million things we could be doing, but what matters to me now, right? And does this contribute to the life I want to have? For me, it's been a lot to do with freedom and simplicity, actually. That's what I want. My life to feel, I want to feel free, and I want things to be simple. And that doesn't always go with the big business goals, right? And that's okay. I mean, because when we tune in, we know if we're holding back because we don't actually want it, or if it's because it's not for us, right? Because we don't have to want the same things. And that doesn't mean we're not doing what we're here to do or fulfilling our biggest potential. But your biggest potential can be, I have a friend who lives on top of a mountain, and he's completely sustainable. He grows his own vegetables and stuff, and he's like one of the happiest people I know. He doesn't have an online business. He just lives really simply, but I think that's what he came here to really live. And I think he is, living his full potential. And so it's like, what is that for us? Because when we stop listening to the voices around us and the images and all of what everyone else wants, and we
that's
focus
right.
on us.
If you have time, I'll tell you another story, a really inspiring story around that.
Yeah, I'd love that.
So one of my favourite people I've interviewed over the years is an author by the name of Bronnie Ware. She's internationally known as the author of The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Oh.
Millions and millions of her books have been sold. And in fact, they're making a movie about it right now. So everyone's going to really know her name in the next 12 months. She's a beautiful Australian single mum, had her first child at 40. And her book, which was written about her work with the dying, apparently was bestseller in Germany, that kept The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo off the bestsellers list for months. Like, literally, she sold, I think, 2 million books or something. I was interviewing her the other day, and she was saying that her publisher was saying to her, Bronnie, you've sold 2 million books around the world, and Hollywood is making a movie about you, and you've got 2,000 Instagram followers. How is that even possible? Like, you should be huge on social media. You should have this and you should have that, and you should be doing more social media, and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And she's just so clear on what her definition of success is. She does not want to be on social media. She does not want to have that pull of having to post every day. Her guiding principle is simplicity. Absolutely. And so she has defined success completely differently from everybody else. And all of these people around her are saying, yeah, but you've sold millions of books, and so this means this and this means that. And she's like, no, I've sold millions of books so I can live the life I want. I'm not doing that. And it was just such a beautiful reminder that, because I don't think we have many role models of people who are saying no to the big system that's out there. Burnout, especially with women entrepreneurs, we glorify that. Overworking, juggling, multitasking, doing it all. You know, we don't have many role models of women saying, no, I'm not going to sell my soul for that. I'm not going to put my health last. I'm not going to burn out. And I just think it's a really good reminder that, yeah, we can have success on our own terms.
Yeah, oh, that's so important. What a great story. And I think it's amazing because it's like there are going to be different rules depending on where we are on that kind of success ladder, isn't it? And so it's so easy to get caught up in that. And yeah, of course it means that to still keep tuning in. And yeah, my favorite entrepreneurs are definitely the ones who kind of do their own thing, because there's something about how they feel and the energy that radiates from them that you can tell that they're living their lives the way they want to. And maybe that's an even bigger challenge, because there's going to be more pressure, and there are going to be more people saying, you know, you should be this or you should be that. And just remembering, and especially when we do this because we want to be free, then why follow all the rules, right?
Perfect.
Love
it.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Amy. It's been amazing to talk with you, and I think we could spend hours chatting about this and everything, because, you know... And it's so important. And I know that you provide a lot of like support to the women in your programs and the people who are in your tribe and in your communities to really help and uplift the mums who need that support as well, and the community and the connections and the staying true to their creativity. So I think that's really, really important, because that's the beautiful thing about the online world too, is that we can get together with people who have similar values to what we have, and we can share that, right? Because it can be hard to follow your own path when everyone else seems to be doing certain things. So having that to lean on is so important, especially when we don't have it in our lives. So I think that what you offer is really, really important and valuable. And I'll be sharing links to Amy's website. She's an amazing writer, and to your book as well, so that people can get it if they want to, and follow you around on social media. That's what I do. Amy at the beach.
I know.
That's Amy's house.
Well, you know it well, and I love that.
Yeah, your house is beautiful.
Me. Your work is so important, and I think the more we can talk about a new way of doing business and life, and doing it from a place of joy and passion rather than pushing and striving, it's so, so important. So thank you, beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to find out more about my intuitive business program called embrace your purpose. There are links below as well, because it's really about how to create a business or expand your business in a really sustainable way by listening to your own intuition, honoring your own rhythm, your body. Really, I use really powerful, but actually quite simple energy tools and practices. And for me, it's like it gives me energy so I can share more. And there's really something, and I focus a lot on making every part of our business feel sacred and beautiful and like the real work, because sometimes we do our work, so if we're healers or authors or whatever, and we do that with a lot of joy, and then we have to market, and and then it feels heavy, and I have to do it like this or like that. So for me, it's really a way to connect with every part of my business so that everything feels like radiating love or having a connection, and then it doesn't feel like we're doing things in a separate way. It feels like it's all kind of part of a whole way of doing business. And for most women and people who are intuitive and sensitive, it makes so much sense when we start doing business in that way, because when we start with us and our needs, then we have something to share from, instead of running and trying to fill something when we're not actually feeling very full ourselves. So it's really a way to create, sustainable business, because we don't just want it to work this year or next year. We want to be able to create for a long time. So we have to, honor our energy and our own needs as well. So thank you so much, Amy. And I can't wait to discover more about, what you're up to and your beautiful work.
Thank you, beautiful. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everyone listening as well. Bye.
Bye.